Hey guys, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Franchise Advisory Board, where we bring in experts from around the franchise community to share with you their experience, mistakes they've made, lessons they've learned that can help you build an unforgettable and thriving franchise brand. And I've got with me a friend of mine, Dustin Ingle. If you haven't met him yet, he's the CEO, founder of Insulation Commandos, which is one of the leading franchises that focuses on improving the energy efficiency of a home. That does include insulation, includes a lot of things, but they've got more of a precise scientific approach to the way they do it, and they operate with high integrity. You'll see why here in a sec because of Dustin's background. He's this guy's this insulation space, if done right, is a super high revenue, high margin business, and Dustin. They do things a lot different over at Insulation Command. I hope you don't mind if I brag on you a little bit here, Dustin. But they've got an incredible model of the word he uses is they smother their franchise owners with support. There are all these ratios out there of 1 to 30s and especially as brands grow, they get a little out of hand. But Dustin and team have including their in-house call center, have a 1 to 2 ratio of home office staff to support their franchise owners directly and franchise owners. It's a crazy ratio. And you're probably thinking, oh, well, they're not profitable as a franchise. Also wrong. They've been able to make the model work in a way that their franchise operates in the black with royalty independence, with 26 owners, and they're doing great. So, Dustin, welcome to the show. Your background is an Army sniper, a director at development at Belfour, focusing on home services has got to be helping you. Tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us about Installation Commandos before we jump into our topic about operational excellence today.
Yeah, Dave, appreciate it. So a little bit about my background. Like you said, I'm a Army veteran, 10 years. Also a contractor here in Tennessee for about 5 or 6 years before I kind of like a lot of people just ran into franchising and worked at Belfour Franchise Group for a few years, kind of learned the in and outs of that and how to scale a brand, to coast. And about 3 years ago, we decided to launch Insulation Commandos. So we're a young emerging brand. I think we're 2.5 years in at this point as a franchise system. We've got 26 owners, and our focus has really been on the retrofit installation side where there's not a lot of competition, like the new construction side. Pretty saturated space, a lot of guys doing new construction insulation. Very competitive on price. It's hard to make money on that side. And then the retrofit side, that's kind of a blue ocean. There's not a lot of competition, and that's where we accelerate. I mean, our trucks are everything we do is kind of built around retrofit, doing attics, crawl spaces. We do some sound mitigation, which is pretty niche, and we use a lot of cool products that other installation companies aren't using or they just can't get access to. But it's been fun, man. We're just growing.
Yeah, well, I love it. I've enjoyed seeing the growth from the sidelines, and congrats on building a system that's really self-sustaining
Thank you.
and helping the owners. And guys, the reason I want Dustin here is he's a little understated. Like he's not going to go jump up on the stand and shout and wave, and he's not that guy. But here, kind of humbly in the background, he and his team have been building this amazing system to support franchise operational excellence. And that's if you know Dustin, you'll know he's a little bit OCD in a good way, right? He's not like wiping down doorknobs in malls or anything, but he's like super focused on doing it right the first time. So what we're going to talk about today is how do you infuse operational excellence into your franchise operations. Now, Dustin's also got incredible franchise development experience, but we're not going to talk about that today. We're talking about, although it might touch what we do discuss, but if you don't mind, let's start with onboarding, Dustin, because this is like the key moment, right? In any business relationship or in any franchise system, it's creating excellence in onboarding and launching a new franchise. Tell us a little bit about like what do you guys do differently that has been working well for you?
Yeah, well, so a lot of stuff we do is not different. So we've got a 6 week ramp up process to get the franchise owner ready to open, and there's a lot that goes into that, in especially on the logistics side, getting a truck, getting equipment, getting it all put together, getting the vehicle wrapped, and from my experience, that was one of the biggest bottlenecks that a lot of franchisors run into is delays in getting them open. These owners are leaving a W-2 job and they don't have any income. And so the quicker you can get them open and cash flowing, um, the more likely they're going to be able to pay their bills, right? So it's important that we get them open as quick as we can, right?
Mhm.
And one of the bottlenecks that I've seen in the franchise space has been securing the truck, getting it wrapped, getting all the equipment. That seems to be the biggest delay.
Yeah.
And early on, we had some issues with that too. So, like for example, we'd get a truck in out of an Isuzu dealer in Iowa, franchise owners in Tampa, Florida. We've got to get the truck delivered to Tampa. Then we've got to find a wrap shop there to wrap the vehicle. Then we've got to get all the equipment shipped to Tampa, from our
Mhm.
supplier in Denver. And it's a logistical nightmare. And for it to just go off in a 6-week process, it's pretty challenging. So something we did was open up a corporate location in right outside Nashville, Tennessee, in Clarksville, Tennessee. So it's a pretty
Mhm.
centrally located spot in the country.
Mhm.
Um, and so what we do now, Dave, is we have the trucks delivered here. I think we've got 8 trucks sitting outside right now, and we have all the equipment delivered here. And then we've got a local wrap shop, mom and pop wrap shop that's wrapping all of our trucks here, and we're doing all of our print here. So when the owners come here for training, they literally drive home with their truck, turnkey, all their
Mhm.
printed materials in the truck with them, all their equipment, tools. It's wrapped, uniforms. I mean, they're leaving with the truck, and we're not sitting in a holding pattern for 3-4 weeks waiting on the snow to clear so we can deliver equipment. So that for me, that was a game changer in getting them open on
Mhm.
time.
That's super smart, dude. So, logistically, but that means you guys have equipment sitting in a parking lot somewhere near your home office, right? And and sorry, I didn't prep you for this question, but how do you guys manage the cash flow or the expenditure? Do you have to outlay up front to make sure that stuff's getting there on time, or this is still franchisees are covering that, or how do you manage the logistics and the cash expenditure of the equipment if you're kind of pre-buying or getting it there before they are launched?
Well, with the equipment specifically, we work with a manufacturer out of Denver that makes our blowers, our
Mm-hmm.
vacuums, most of our equipment's from one manufacturer,
Mm-hmm.
and just keeping communication. So I talk to those guys probably once a week, and they know what the pipeline looks like. They're making sure this stuff's built and ready to go when we need it. So for example, I've got, I don't know, 7 or 8 packages just sitting out there ready to go, and we're not waiting on it to be built, right? And they're staying in front of that. But our owners are fully funded, before
Mm-hmm.
before we
Close.
get their equipment. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not
Awesome.
there's not like an accounts receivable or anything like that with the equipment. But yeah, we've got an 8,000 square foot building here, and we may outgrow that here pretty quick.
Yeah, that's amazing. I hope you do. I hope you do. Brilliant idea though. Logistically centralize it and then have them just drive home. That's awesome. Rather than fly home and then pray for 3 weeks that they get a piece of equipment so they can start making money. That's a
And
big
there's
difference.
there's a ton of advantages doing it that way. We have a corporate location here, and so when we do the training week, they literally get help setting up their truck from the corporate owned location, like the crew chiefs. Like, hey, we like the hose over here. Put your drills over here. Like they're getting all that here with the guys doing it. So there's a lot of value there. And most of these owners, they've never driven a box truck before, so they get to break that in on the way home.
Yeah, it's a goofy feel and ride because you're like, I don't know, you feel like you're like floating over the front of the car a little bit. Yeah, love that, man. I love it. So you said you didn't do much that was unique. I would say some of what you're doing is a bit unique to get owners launched fast. There's another part of launch though, right? Which is how do we get them making money month one? And I know that's a big goal of yours. So can you maybe share like, so there's the equipment, there's the logistics, there's the training. And I'm sure, training, there's a little bit different about the training. So can you talk to us about what do you guys do that's different with the training aspect? And then also, what do you do that's different with like getting them primed so they can start making money month one?
So it's kind of a two-phase launch. The first phase is virtual. We're doing a little bit of installation 101 training with them virtually, sales training. You've met Brock Adams, our brand president. He's a sales he's a the best sales coach I've ever met, and he's big on role plays. And when you role play, you're in your default mode. It's you've got the anxiety, so you go into your default mode when you're role playing, and that's the best way to train. And so we do a lot of role plays in the virtual meetings, with new owners, because they may not have a sales background. Just getting them comfortable with the sales process, that's super important. I think a lot of franchisors don't even really touch on sales, and that's what drives revenue. So we're real heavy on the sales training, sales coaching, and we also help with once they get going. If they do hire a sales rep, that a lot of times they'll send their sales rep out here to do some extra training with us. So a lot of that in the beginning, just driving that into them during the phase one. Building science is big. We get our building science principles certification during phase one. So all of our owners open with a BPI level 1 certification, building science.
Wow.
So it's kind of like the brown belt in the industry. And then the phase two is when they're here. So they spend a week here. It's 5 days. A lot of building science. We're getting in the weeds on building science and dew points, and how humidity works, and diffusion and heat transfer, and like all that science that is actually the sales process. So like our sales process, it's not real salesy. It's more building science, and it's irrefutable data telling you what needs to happen to your house, right? So it makes the sales process easier. A lot of hands-on. We actually go on real jobs. I don't know many franchisors that load up the franchisees in the trucks and go to a live job at 7 a.m. and they're there all day. They get to do the whole job, collect the check, get the Google review, come back, clean the truck out, reorganize it for the next day. Like they get 2 full days of real jobs, with the crews here. So and then some sales training, some role plays, a lot of role plays. I could go out here and show you, but we built a house inside our warehouse, like turnkey house. It's got a crawl space, an attic, and we can do a lot of the training here in the warehouse.
Holy smokes. That's pretty incredible, man. I only know one other brand that's done anything like that. And that's like one of the largest multi-unit franchisor consortiums in the industry. So that's incredible. So live training, hands-on, and I'm assuming they're crawling through the crawl space and getting in the attic, in the house, in the shop before they go out
Yeah.
live. So they've had pretty intense hands-on training, and that's kind of the end, like the fake house or like the little microcosm trainings. That's about as good as I see it in the industry. But then you guys take it and then have them apply it in real life on a real job in your
Right.
local franchise.
That's right.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So now they've learned the systems. They know how to do it. They've hands-on done a job before they sell the first one. What are you guys doing to then there's the other side, which is prime the pump to make sure they got deals and leads and things coming in the moment that truck gets back into their territory. What are you guys doing there to prime that pump?
Yeah, we've kind of dialed that in. Some locations it's easy. Like big market, a lot of population, tier one city. Atlanta, Dallas. These are easy markets to get them going. Just the lead volume. Some markets I would call like a tier two or tier three city, like Clarksville, for example. I would call Clarksville like a tier three city. It's 400,000 people.
Hmm.
So knowing that going in, we're gonna have to do a lot more grassroots stuff for them. Partnering with local retail to set up booths, inside the retail stores, um, yard signs, door hangers, postcards, BNI networks,
Hmm.
Chamber of Commerce, home builders associations, So just getting them in front of all that before they open, expectations that they're executing on all the grassroots. And then, any leads that come in from aggregators, digital, Google, Angie, like all that kind of stuff. That's just icing on the cake. That's the mindset going in. But it's not really cookie cutter. I mean, like I said, some locations it's easier, bigger area, more dense, more people. Some areas it's more on the grassroots side. It's not a one size fits all, but just being in front of that and starting that process at least 2 weeks before they open has been kind of key in getting them cash flowing fast.
Yeah. Now, you guys also have other resources that you've got in place. I mean, in addition to all the sales training, the hands-on, the grassroots training. And by the way, I just got to give you a commendation. I talk to a lot of franchise owners when I go to a brand conference, or if they somehow find me on LinkedIn or whatever for brands that we work with, and some brands that I don't, and they need sales help. So then I find myself putting on the sales coach hat, and I've done that for years, so I don't mind. But then I ask them, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "I buy Angie leads and Thumbtack leads because that's the playbook from corporate." And I'm like, and we pay this marketing company to do SEO, and we pay that marketing company to do Facebook organic posts, and that's my marketing packet." And I'm like, "Sweet. What are you doing to own the local market? Like, are you in BNI? Are you going to the chamber events? Are you registered in the chamber? Are you going to the home shows? Or are you supporting the high school band? Like, what are you doing to infuse yourself into the community so that people start to know who you are and will come to you as well? And you also build your your local referral network." And they just
Right.
look at me like a deer in the headlights, like, "What are you talking about? That sounds like a lot of work." And I'm like, "Don't you own a freaking business? Like, are you kidding me right now?" So
Yeah.
yeah, so the fact that you guys have built that playbook that now it's like having a full tool belt, right? Like a lot of franchise brands are like, "Here's your drill, here's your leather belt, go." Well, on
Yeah.
your tool belt, they got a drill, they got a hammer, they got wrenches, they've got an Allen wrench set, they got like whatever they need so they can apply that in their local market. I love that you're doing that.
Yeah. And that's you kind of mentioned referrals. I mean, for the most part, our business is a one and done thing. You're not going to upgrade your installation more than once every 20
Yeah.
years, right?
Right.
But where the recurring revenue comes from is those B2B referrals, restoration companies like here, we've got this big ice storm that happened here. So a lot of pipes are bursting and we were plugged in with the restoration guys in town and they're
Mhm.
sending us all those referrals, so B2B referrals are big. Restoration contractors, builders, even pest control companies, HVAC contractors, home inspectors, so getting in front of those guys early, um, making those phone calls. We give the owner a list of all those contractors in town, so that they can call and start drumming up those referrals.
Yeah. And I remember when you and I talked about that, actually, you introduced me to a cool tool you guys are using that helps you pull that data. So your franchise owners, they're not a baby giraffe dropped in a new territory with a shiny new truck saying good luck. They've got a list of people they can call 2 weeks before launch to start building the rapport, the
Right.
rapport, having lunches, going to breakfast, like all the stuff that you've got to do to get those guys. They're not going to give you a referral just because you give them a phone call
Right.
well, right? It's
Yeah.
more than that. So. That's awesome training, dude. Awesome training. Tell us just for a second about like so far with the intense training, hands-on, all the stuff you do, the robust playbook, giving them data so they can actually know who to call to start this referral network. Without any specific numbers, what's the result? Like, how have you seen like the launch happen over the last 2.5 years, and how has it gotten better as you guys have done this?
So what we tell the owners is like, hey, if you don't execute on these grassroots items, or these B2B referrals, at some point you're going to plateau. There's only so many leads you can buy, right? So if you're not executing on all that, then you're just going to plateau and just cash flow, right? But if you want to grow the business, you've got to do those things. Um, I'd say HVAC has probably been one of the biggest honey holes for us. If you're replacing your HVAC, it's probably because your insulation was poor, and vice versa. If we're in there fixing an attic, their HVAC is probably burned out. It's the same customer, So that's a reciprocal relationship. So we send a lot of leads to HVAC guys, and then they
Mhm.
send a lot of leads to us. And the guys that have built those relationships, um, you can look at their marketing spend as a percent of revenue, and it's significantly lower than the guy that's just buying Angie leads, right?
Oh yeah,
But yeah,
100%.
so we've got a handful of owners that are over a year in, have a couple trucks on the road, have hired salespeople, and those guys they've plugged in with roofers. They're getting a lot of referrals from roofers and builders, and they're starting to get dividends from those relationships that they built, because
Yeah.
it's not, you're not going to build a relationship overnight. It takes time, sometimes a year, 2 years to build those relationships. So some of those guys that are really starting to grow, they're starting to see the return on early investment.
Yeah, that's a slow build, but it's a strong
Yeah,
burn, and they're off-market leads. That's what people don't get
right,
is that person that just got referred to you from the HVAC person. They weren't Googling insulation. Like that's a one to one lead ratio. That's the best. And
right.
also the cost of that lead was maybe a lunch or two every year. And
Copy. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's crazy, but shh, don't tell everyone. Don't talk about that on the podcast so no one can hear about it, right? Dude, so um I love one of the things I love that you shared before we talked is just that you guys also as a corporate team, because you've got an excellent launch program, the training, the hands-on stuff, the equipment getting ready, uniforms, print materials, everything. But there's also the pre-launch activities where you're giving them the list of who you call, who's adjacent. Go meet these guys, go get together with them, build your referral partnership network now, and be ready for launch. Sales training, practice, all that stuff is fantastic and best in class. And yet there's more. And I think this is the secret sauce, honestly. So what do you guys do after every launch to make sure that the next one's better?
Just having in the military, we call it an after action review, an AAR. So, what did we do? What are some sustains? What are some things we did well
Mhm.
on that one that we want to make sure we roll into the next one? And what are some mistakes we made, or what are some areas of opportunity that we can adjust for the next launch? And sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's the sales training. Sometimes every launch is we're getting better every time we launch a franchise, and just learning from those mistakes. I'm not going to give you all the secret sauce on here, man, but
Don't.
just it's really just sitting down with the team and the owner. Get the feedback from the owner, like, hey, we're 90 days in. What do you think we could have done better with your launch? And just hearing it from them, from their perspective, like, hey, I wish I had known this.
Hmm.
And that's something, like, we're getting ready to have our second annual convention week after next in Vegas, and we're going to have a session where we've got some of these guys that are a year in sitting down, and talking about, hey, what are some things that they wish they had known month one or month
Hmm.
two, and just trying to get in front of that with these guys that are getting ready to open, or maybe they're a month or two in. But it's just leveraging the system, and we've got all these owners. Everybody's got their experiences, and just bringing that in and letting everybody feed off of it. That's how you grow it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, a self-sustaining, self-improving model. I love it. That's in the software world, obviously I live there. We call that a retrospective. It's part of PMI, it's part of Agile. It's part, like it's a critical part of these like effective software development strategies. It's the same thing. You got to learn like keep, stop, kill, or keep, start, stop. That's what you call it. Anyway, it's awesome. Great process. So let's talk about being proactive with support. So issues are going to come up and trying to get ahead of them. A lot of like the training, I think, is a huge way to mitigate issues, right? But things come up, right? As new franchisees are operating, different things change. Different markets have different things. So what have you guys done to create now post-launch support systems that help these franchisees rapidly get back on track?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. Early on, it was, one of my KPIs early on was how many phone calls did we get post launch from
Mhm.
that owner in the first 90 days. You know, how many times did they have to call with questions like, "Hey, how do you do this?" or "Hey, the equipment did this," you know, like,
Mhm.
and then every training class we add that to the training, and then the next launch we track that. And the idea is less calls. You know, we're getting in front of those questions during training. So that's how we're improving the training, so that there's less questions when they open. You know, like, hey, how do I change the filter on the vacuum? You know, just some of that kind of stuff. That's just being proactive with that in the training. Is it's made my team's job easier and the franchisee experience better because we're getting in front of those questions early. So that's the training's constantly evolving. But something else is, you know, now we're starting to get where, like I said, we've got a handful of owners that are a year in. They've added a couple trucks. Some of them are moving into bigger buildings and, you know, running into bigger problems, you
Mhm.
know, as they grow the business. And so our focus year one was getting them open, getting them profitable, right? Like, you're just laser focused on that. And now we've got these guys that are rolling. Like, what can we do to help them, right? And so the shift that we're right in the middle of that shift right now. And so we've rolled out what we're calling a SWAT team. And so I've got our general manager Corey, who runs the Clarksville corporate location, my sales manager here, Corinne, and then one of our crew chiefs, our senior crew chief, Chase, and myself. We've kind of put together this little SWAT team. And between the four of us, there is nothing that they could ever run into or have a question about that we can't answer.
Mhm.
And so what we're doing is we're doing these week long visits. You know, it's kind of like we're calling missions. So we're getting ready to launch that in February. You know, we're going to go out and visit our Charlotte, North Carolina owner and we're just going to plug in with him for a week. Maybe it's sales, maybe it's operations, you know, maybe it's networking, different parts of the business that he might need some support with. Just plugging in with him for a week and helping him and his team. And then doing that, you know, the first year we're going to probably do three or four of those, just focused on the ones that need the most support, and then kind of grow that from there. And you know what I've one really cool. I mean, I can't express how important it is to have a corporate location because it's literally a breeding ground for franchisor trainers. You know, that you can deploy to different locations, and that's literally what the corporate location is. It's just a breeding ground for trainers. Um, R&D, testing equipment, you know, that's been big. That's a huge win for us, was opening a true owned corporate location.
Yeah. No, that's critical. Can I riff on that for a second? So first
Yeah.
of all, wow, like the whole concept of that SWAT team, amazing, amazing idea. And you guys are getting on site with them working for a week. I can't think of a better way to show your investment as a franchisor to your franchise owner that you're truly partnering with them, right? In their journey to grow and scale. Um, but that what you said about having a home office, I know brands that have sold off their home office. You know, everybody sees the opportunity there of, ooh, like I want to get that lump sum of cash. I want to cash out of something early. I don't know what drives this. Hopefully, it's not operating in the reds. They need the cash, but it's actually usually their golden goose. So there's two parts that I see. One is when you're young, you need the cash from the home office location sometimes to operate, so you don't have to pull money out of the franchise brand as you invest in the franchise success. Now, but the other part is what you just said is now you've got, if you sell your home office location, you then have you're no ear to the ground. You don't know what's working. You can't innovate when the market changes, new products come out. You don't really know what's going on because you have to now 100% depend upon feedback coming from the franchise owners, and they don't think like you. So you're never going to get a whole perspective 360 on what's healthy, what's working. You can't
That's right.
test things. You have to then lean on some poor franchise owner who's like, dude, I'm so tired of your new program tests. Like, just let me run my business. You don't want to create that fatigue. So, what a good plan. And the brands I've seen that have sold them out, uh, there's this stupid thing going on in this industry right now of like everyone saying, well, when somebody comes to buy your franchise brand, they don't want to see that you got 25 corporate locations. and 15 franchise owners. True statement.
Right.
But what they're missing is so some people take that and extrapolate it too far and say, oh, so investors don't want to have any corporate owned locations. Also not true. It does change their valuation model a little bit. They might take that piece and then give you an EBITDA multiple rather than a top line multiple
Right.
on your royalty revenue. That's okay. But the smart investors in this industry are looking for brands that also are in tune with what's happening in innovation. So it's like I think what's happening is in the industry, they're hearing that noise of, oh, well, investors don't want high ratios of corporate owned to franchise location. True. And then they're saying, oh, I should get rid of my corporate owned locations. False, right? So I'm just glad that you guys are keeping it. I want to reiterate that point for everyone listening. That's a key part of success.
Yeah, I agree. And we when we launched Clarksville, it wasn't even intended for all those advantages to happen, We
Yeah.
the idea was like, hey, we need a centrally located building to handle the logistics of trucks and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, if we open a corporate location, it'll kind of pay for itself and we can use that building. That was the idea going in. And then we're like, wait a minute, this is we can test all this stuff. We can do this, and it's just kind of evolved from there. And
Yeah.
so it's been awesome.
Well, I appreciate you being humble enough to say that that was sort of an accidental stroke of genius,
Yeah.
but that's why we're talking about it, man. So that other people can learn and then hopefully replicate the same smart business decisions. Tell me about this. So, franchisees often struggle in the lead follow-up process, right? And getting appointments set. You want them out there estimating, they're driving the most value for the business if they're creating estimates and they're closing deals and they're getting jobs done, right? That's where the revenue comes in. But there's a whole top of funnel sales stuff. And you guys made a decision to bring a call center in-house. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey? Like, what did you try, and then how did it go, and then what did you change, and how is it going now?
So we knew coming into this that we needed a call center, and I ran a home service business for years, and you're only one person. You only have so much bandwidth, and if you're in a home and the phone rings and you miss that call, they've already hired somebody else by the time you call them back in an hour, right? Speed to lead is so important. And so I knew coming into this, we've got to have a call center. The owners aren't going to have time to manage all these leads. And so we partnered with a third party call center, like most brands do. They did a good job. I would say like industry standard. I don't know what your opinion is, but I'd say 20 to 30% booking rate. Is kind of standard what we saw with third party call centers that we used. Um, and then we had the idea of bringing that in house. Like we're truly a sales, like our DNA is sales. So like from Brock, the president, to Geo, one of our onboarding coaches, my team we've got a lot of sales experience on the team. So it's like, man, we could tap into that and bring this call center in house. Let's see what that looks like. And you were part of that process because we use ClientTether with the call center. But I think it was back in July
Mhm.
where with Clarksville, with our corporate location, we decided to test that out with the corporate location. So we set up ClientTether with you. We hired our first agent, trained them. We put the agent through the building science certifications, the same one that the owners go through. And this is a true sales guy that's top sales guy at a competitor that we brought in, put him through the franchise training, same training that the owners go through, and then turned it on in July. And we went from like 20-30% booking rate to 60-70% booking rate. We literally doubled our revenue by just bringing that in house. And then from there we started to scale it. We started to add two at a time. We'd add two franchise locations, test it for a little while, add two more, monitor the conversion rate, and now I think it was October when we officially had 100% everybody system wide on the new call center. And we're still sitting, we're still double the booking rate, of what we were with a third party. So like that was a huge win. We doubled the revenue of every owner, just by bringing that in house. And we were even able to save them money on the cost of the call center too. So it's a win, win,
Yeah.
win, right?
Yeah, that's like a triple win. That almost sounds too good to be true, to be honest. But the recipe, it feels like the recipe is one. I'm not going to say it to be self-promoting, but you got to have the right tools in place, right?
Right.
But more importantly, you also need to have, or just as importantly, you got to have the right person. And third-party call centers, I got nothing wrong with any of them. Some of them are great partners. I played pickleball with the president of one locally here not long ago, and good people. I think they do a good job. But there's something to be said about the salesmanship on that first call. And most
I
call
agree.
centers are not intensely trained product experts and sales experts. They're usually great at getting someone to say yes to an appointment and booking it on a calendar. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's like good, better, best, and that's good. Then there's better, and then there's best. And it feels like you guys have kind of cracked the code for the best recipe here.
Yeah, and if you look at, so obviously booking rate, we doubled the booking rate with the call center, but we also noticed an increase in close rate in the home. And I think there's a correlation there, because whoever answers the agent, that's the first impression of the company that the consumer gets. And if they can't articulate, the attic, they're gonna ask them questions, like, hey, what, I've got icicles on my gutter. I think maybe my attic has this. And if they can't articulate an intelligent response, and they kind of fumble through that, like that's the first impression. And so it's already an uphill battle when the franchisee goes in to do the estimate. It's already an uphill. They're already skeptical, right, from that first interaction. So when you've got somebody that just crushes it on that first call, we've noticed that we've already gained their trust by just booking the estimate
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
coming in there and make the close a little easier in the home.
Yeah. And if I may add, as an old sales dog, that you also can do one more thing, which is really critical. You guys are not the cheapest solution in the market intentionally and by design, right? Because you also are more thorough than everybody else. One of the things you also get a chance to do if you've got a professional answering those calls is you get to move the goalposts. You get to reset the expectations of the homeowner. So one reason and I don't even know like why, but like I would be highly suspicious that one of the reasons your close rate has also gone up is because they've had a highly intelligent conversation with somebody on the phone that reset their expectations of what the project was now about. They were like, I think I need to have someone check my attic for leaks. And all of a sudden it becomes, hey, we're going to have somebody come out and check your dew points and figure this out and talk about the negative airflow. We're going to do this and we're going to use these tools and this technology to really identify where the real problem is rather than just spray and pray up in your attic.
Right.
Now, the other two people are going to follow up with them are going to be like, hey, I'm going to come here. We can do it cheap. We're going to spray and pray in your attic. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. Like you got to plant the barb and also plant the seed. And that's an important part of that first call. I bet you Chad's doing that extremely well. And
Yeah.
yeah, but to your point, first impressions set the tone. And so why outsource your first impression?
Right.
Yeah. Dude, love that stuff. These are great insights, man. So Dustin, I wish we had another like 20 minutes to keep picking your brain. Anyone listening, I'm sure you were feeling the same way I am. Like, holy crap, this guy's got some great ideas. They're building a memorable brand that's going to keep growing. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, Dustin, what's the best way for them just to connect if they had more questions about the way you're doing stuff and wanted to
I'd
talk?
say probably LinkedIn's quickest. Yeah, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Let's guys. Dustin's an incredibly generous guy with his time if he's available, right? So, but if you see him at a conference, I'd corner him and pick his brain a little. Dustin, this has been great insights. The key things, key takeaways, right? We'll go in reverse order. Bringing call centers in house and making sure they're highly trained, highly skilled. Being proactive with the way you support your franchise owners. Finding ways to help franchisees drive sales from day one in their territories doing after launch reviews to make sure you're constantly getting smarter and better. And then doing intense training up front that's not just hands-on in a simulated way, but getting them in the trucks, getting them using tools beforehand has been really a game changer. And then making sure you streamline that onboarding process generally. So just so many good insights today. I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin.